Hi, this is Shola, and we're back at it again in another video in my BDAD series, Build Digital Assets Daily. And before we get started, I want to throw a question at you and get your response. Do you find yourself sick and tired of not awakening every morning with the clarity you need to understand exactly what you need to do that day in order to get the results that you want in your business? Well, if that sounds like you, I want you to lean in because we have some ideas that are going to make things vastly clearer for you today. But before we get started, let me review the three big ideas that are the pillars of this BDAT series. The big idea for number one is that every day we have 1,440 minutes in a day, and if we can just make sure that no matter what tasks that get thrown our way, we invest at least 1% of our day creating content as opposed to consuming content, then we'll look up and in the span of 1 quarter or 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, a year, we will have created more content than we have consumed, right? And the whole idea is to create more content that consume. Every day, ask yourself, have I spent more time consuming, reading, or watching other people's content, or have others spent more time consuming, reading, listening to my content? Big idea number two is the notion that we swipe one of the biggest concepts of biology, which is anatomy, the different parts of a particular system, and we apply that to our sales funnel, understanding that um, one of the key components of a sales funnel is content, right? Along with analytics, along with creatives, along with code. But at the end of the day, content is, to use an analogy, if your sales funnel is a body, then your content is your heart, all right? The third big idea is that KPIs matter, all right? And that if you pick just one number that you want to track and you force yourself to every day sit back and measure whether or not that number has improved or not improved, then you'll find yourself moving forward, right? With all that said, the purpose of our deep dive today is to really shed some light on a idea that few people talk about. And the idea is that your content strategy is really your communication strategy. Let me say that again. Your content strategy is really your communication strategy. See, most people either don't say that out loud or they assume that people understand that. And when you think about it, everything you do in business requires communication, right? Until we're able to communicate like via um, telepathy, in order in every aspect of your business, whether you are drumming up more visibility or attention, whether you are fulfilling a product, whether you are developing relationships with your fans, followers, customers, suppliers, potential partners, everything requires communication or content. All right. And in fact, that brings us to the first big idea that we just want to review, which is that um, in order for you to figure out the one thing in business that you can create that somebody else can't, and that more importantly people are willing to pay for, you have to be able to communicate value, right? So really quickly, let's just think about what are people willing to exchange currency for, right? The first thing is that the things that they find important. Now, one group of people may find one thing important, and another group of people may find another thing important, right? Uh, that's one of the first big ideas when it comes to thinking about value. The second big idea, though, is that the sweet spot for you and your business is finding the things that are hard, boring, and scary for them, meaning your customers, but that are easy, all right, fun and exciting for you. So let me just say that again. What is easy, all right, fun, and exciting for you, right? That is hard, boring, and scary for other people to produce, right? So obviously, a really great example is obviously let's take somebody who is an athlete. There's a reason why a top athlete gets paid hundreds of millions of dollars a year, right? Because they find it easy, fun, and exciting, right? To whatever shoot 30 points in the game, and bear with the sports analogy because it's not in my zone of excellence, right? But the average person can't do that. Similarly, why does a machine learning or AI engineer at the top of her game get paid several $1 million a year? Why? Because she finds it easy, fun, and exciting to write algorithms, all right? And the average person finds that hard, boring, and scary. But the reality situation is that all the tools that we use in our modern environment can't be used without um, some machine learning. Okay. So, again, the backdrop of all this is number one, understanding that in order for us to communicate the things that are easy, fun, and exciting for us, and that are hard, boring, and scary for other people, and that ultimately people would trade their money for, we have to understand that everybody, no matter what business you're in, is in the communication game. All right. Now that brings us to understanding what your content zone of genius is. All right. And another thing that we can call it is not just your content zone of genius, but your, as we're using communication. As we're using these terms interchangeably, what is your communication zone of genius, right? And what is your zone of genius? I talked about that in the previous video, so go ahead and check this out, BDAD video 26. Your zone of genius is basically the things that you, the zone of genius and zone of excellence are the things that you do either better than anybody or only if you only have a few peers for, right? So you could be number one in the world, or you can be, let's say, one of the top 100 in a space that they really need 100,000 people to do, right? So if you're one of the top 100 in an area, all right, or for doing a particular skill, and the demand is 100,000, but the supply is only 100. That's almost like being number one, right? You're in the top 0.01%. Okay, so with all that said, how does the issue of self-awareness impact our ability to find what our content or communication zone of genius is? Well, the first thing is that let me just take a second and say that I highly, highly recommend that you check out two of these really pivotal videos by Gary Vee, where he talks about self awareness. And one of the things that he highlights for everyone, I'm not giving a hat tip to him. Many people don't give hat tips to other influencers, but I'm going to do that. Is he is very clear that his level of self awareness is very responsible for the success that he's had producing content and building authority and ultimately generating hundreds of $1 millions in sales. So let's just think about what your self awareness is. Well, the first idea that I feel could really help you latch on to what self awareness is pulled from the real estate industry. In the real estate industry, they have this idea called highest and best use. And highest and best use is basically you have a piece of land and you don't know if you're going to put a hospital on it or a restaurant or a dorm or an apartment building, okay, or a baseball field or a storage uh, uh, um, unit. All right. The whole idea is to figure out what purpose of that land is going to enable you to get the most profit out of it, right? And similarly, everybody once you become aware of the fact that you only have a measly 1,440 minutes in a day, right? And you have to figure out, um, of all the many things you could be doing with your time, what is going to be your highest and best use. In order to figure that out, you got to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? Because it might be you can take 10 minutes and do one task, and uh, a peer of yours might need to take 2 hours and do the same task, right? Similarly, you can take 2 hours to do something and somebody else could take 2 minutes. And so you have to really lean in on the things that are easy, as I said, and fun and exciting for you, that are hard, boring for other people, and spend most of your time doing that. That is where the real genius happens, right? It's also called the 80-20 zone. The 80-20 is just more with less. How the 20% that you can do that gets 80% of results. And to take a second and to geek out, there's an 80/20 within the 80/20, right? So if I go 20%, all right, the 80/20 of the 80/20 is like 20%, all right, raised to the power of three. And that's basically one, right? So that implies that it is possible to do 1% of the work and get 51% of the outcome. Let me say it again. Simple math, 80/20. All right, I took the 80/20 of the 80/20, which is 0.20 raised to the power of 3. And you see that it's actually possible to do 1% of the work and get 51% of the result. But I digress. All right. So let's get back to what we're talking about when it comes to um, your content or communication zone of genius. One of the critical questions that you have to answer for yourself is which mode of content or communication medium plays to my strengths, right? Some people are really good at writing, all right? Other people are really good at images. Other people are really good at just speaking. Other people are really good either in front of the camera or doing videos like this. What you have to do is put out and lastly, some people are just good at writing code. Imagine somebody just sitting in their, you know, cave, if you will, and they're not a writer. They're not good at crafting beautiful images or drawing. They're an introvert, so they don't. Maybe let's just say somebody has an accent and not comfortable with it. All right, or they just don't. They're shy. They don't want to get on camera. They might be really good at hacking up a piece of code, and believe it or not, you can communicate through code. Okay, as example, Facebook communicates ways to connect you with friends and family, right? Even though people don't really see Facebook as content, it is in a content business, right? And so what I'm saying is that there are one, two, three, four, five modes of communication. And what you have to do is be self aware. And the trick is to just try putting out these different forms of content, all right? And and then what you want to do is let the market tell you what really resonates, right? So you might find that you spent literally 20 minutes on a video and got 1,000 views, right? But then you spend 1 month trying to churn out a blog post and you barely got 100 visitors, right? Or you might find that you took your phone one day and you shot a beautiful photo that got shared 300 times, right? And it literally took you 1 minute. But then you tried to create a podcast and it took you 1 week. And so what you have to do is test these different forms of communication and then look at the response, all right? Also, you can ask people in your network, um, when I'm communicating with you, what form of communication is most effective? Text, images, audio, video, or when I just, let's say, an app, when I just, let's say, jump on my computer, Google, um, open up Google Drive, and the next thing I do is I create a quick tool, and that helps me communicate with people. Okay, so with all that said, the next thing we want to do is think about once you've decided what form of content is um, um, great for you based upon your zone of genius. The next thing you want to do is figure out how you use the content mode that is best for you based on the phases of your sales process. All right. So in that respect, think through um, the four phases of your sales process and understand that for each phase of your sales process, you're going to need um, you're going to need content, all right? So the first phase of the sales process is the top of the funnel, all right? And the top of the funnel is how you go about getting attention, all right? And it is either through ads, all right, which is my preference, all right? My zone of excellence or genius is through SEO, all right? Meaning the search engines, through social. Some people do direct mail, and some people through live events. You have to decide which channel, if you will, is going to work for you, and that's often determined based on more self awareness, but also determined based on what your preferred mode of content is. All right. The next purpose of the content is conversion. Okay. Once you've gotten attention, then what you need to do is convert that attention into deeper interest, and that means that one way of looking at that is you can go ahead and look at how many let's say fans you have or followers, all right, or how many visitors you get per month to your website, and then look back and say, okay, how many of those people have either booked appointments or they have become an email subscriber, meaning they've or they have left their information. So what you need to do is you need to figure out how you uh, um, um, what you need to do is figure out how you can go through the four phases of your content, and then you can um, um, based on that you can decide if all of all the people that you have um, gotten to your website or gotten to um, your social media pages, have they converted to subscribers? All right. In the next session, we're going to pick up and talk about the last two phases of the funnel, which is your bottom of the funnel, your first front end customers, and then the back end of the funnel. All right. This is Show. Take care and take action.